Your kidneys are being damaged this very moment, not by what you'd expect, not by the medications you've been warned about or the processed foods you know you should avoid, but by something far more insidious, by what you're not doing, by the absence of a single compound that could be protecting the 140 miles of blood vessels coiled inside these fist-sized organs, filtering your blood 50 times every single day. And the most shocking part? That compound might already be sitting in your kitchen cabinet, dismissed as just another supplement, while your kidney function silently declines by 1% each year after age 40. We're talking about magnesium, but not the way you think, not as some generic mineral in a multivitamin that you barely absorb. We're talking about a specific, bioavailable form of magnesium that functions as a gatekeeper for over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including the precise mechanisms that determine whether your kidneys thrive or deteriorate. The difference between someone who reaches 80 with functioning kidneys and someone facing dialysis at 65 often comes down to this single micronutrient. And right now, if you're like nearly half of all Americans, you're running dangerously low without knowing it. Let's start with what's actually happening inside your kidneys right now. Each kidney contains about 1 million nephrons, microscopic filtering units that perform the extraordinary task of separating waste from what your body needs to keep. Blood enters each nephron through a tangled cluster of capillaries called a glomerulus, where pressure forces fluid through an incredibly selective membrane. This membrane has pores measured in nanometers, billionths of a meter, calibrated to let waste molecules through while retaining essential proteins and blood cells. It's precision engineering that happens continuously, without conscious thought, processing about 50 gallons of blood every 24 hours in the average adult. But here's where the story takes a turn. Most people never learn from their doctors. Those filtering membranes aren't passive sieves. They're living tissue, composed of specialized cells that require constant energy and maintenance. And the currency for that maintenance? Magnesium. Every time your heart beats and sends blood surging into those delicate glomeruli, magnesium-dependent enzymes regulate the pressure, preventing damage from excessive force. Every time glucose molecules pass through your bloodstream, magnesium helps insulin bind to receptors properly, preventing the sugar spikes that caramelize proteins and destroy kidney tissue. Every time inflammatory molecules appear, from an infection, from stress, from the breakdown products of normal metabolism, magnesium helps calm that inflammatory response before it scars the very organs keeping you alive. When magnesium levels drop, a cascade of destruction begins. First, the blood vessels leading to and from your nephrons start to stiffen. Magnesium normally keeps calcium in solution, preventing it from depositing in soft tissues. Without adequate magnesium, calcium begins crystallizing in arterial walls, turning flexible vessels into rigid pipes. Blood pressure rises. The kidneys, sensing reduced blood flow, activate the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, a hormonal cascade designed to raise blood pressure even higher. It's a vicious cycle. The kidneys create high blood pressure to protect themselves, and that very high blood pressure damages them further. Studies show that people with magnesium deficiency are twice as likely to develop hypertension compared to those with optimal levels. And hypertension is the second leading cause of kidney failure in the United States, right behind diabetes. Then there's the inflammation problem. Your kidneys exist in a constant state of controlled inflammation, a necessary part of the immune response that fights off urinary tract infections and removes damaged cells. But when magnesium drops below critical thresholds, that controlled inflammation becomes wildly unregulated. C-reactive protein levels rise, interleukin-6 spikes, tumor necrosis factor alpha floods the system. These inflammatory markers don't just float harmlessly through your bloodstream. They attack the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels, including the precious capillaries in your glomeruli. One by one, nephrons become scarred and non-functional. The remaining nephrons have to work harder, filtering more blood, creating more waste, driving more inflammation. The decline accelerates. Research from the Journal of the American Society of Nephrology revealed something striking when they followed 4,200 adults over a 7-year period. Those with the highest dietary magnesium intake had a 42% lower risk of developing chronic kidney disease compared to those with the lowest intake. 42%. That's not a marginal difference. That's the gap between maintaining independence in your 70s and facing 3 dialysis sessions per week, 4 hours each, with needles in your arm and your life revolving around a machine. But if magnesium is so critical, why aren't we hearing about this? Why isn't your nephrologist handing you a prescription for magnesium powder, along with your blood pressure medication? The answer lies in how medical specialization works. Nephrologists focus on treating disease, not preventing it. By the time most people see a kidney specialist, their estimated glomerular filtration rate, the key measure of kidney function, has already dropped below 60% of normal. At that point, the priority shifts to slowing decline and preparing for eventual dialysis or transplant. The window for prevention, for optimization, for actually healing damaged tissue before scarring sets in permanently, that window closed years earlier when nobody was paying attention to something as seemingly mundane as magnesium status. And there's another problem. Standard blood tests don't accurately measure magnesium status. When your doctor orders a basic metabolic panel, the magnesium test measures only the magnesium floating in your serum, less than 1% of your total body magnesium. The remaining 99% sits inside cells, in bones, in tissues. You can have critically depleted cellular magnesium stores while your blood test comes back completely normal. This is why magnesium deficiency has been called the invisible deficiency. Invisible to standard testing, invisible to most practitioners, invisible until the damage manifests as hypertension, arrhythmias, kidney stones, or chronic kidney disease. So what drives this deficiency in the first place? The modern diet bears significant blame. Magnesium is abundant in foods that dominated human nutrition for most of our evolutionary history. Dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains. But the standard American diet centers on refined grains, processed meats, dairy products, and oils. The refining process strips away the magnesium-rich outer layers of grains. The processing removes it from whole foods. Even when we do eat vegetables, the magnesium content has declined over the past 50 years due to soil depletion from intensive agriculture. Studies comparing food composition data from 1950 to 2000 show an average 25% decrease in magnesium content in vegetables. Then there's what actively depletes magnesium from your body. High sugar intake increases urinary magnesium loss. Your kidneys dump magnesium while trying to manage the glucose load. Alcohol does the same thing. increasing magnesium excretion while simultaneously impairing absorption from food. Stress triggers the release of catecholamines and cortisol, hormones that mobilize magnesium from cells and increase renal excretion. Chronic stress means chronic magnesium loss. And for many people, managing kidney concerns, there's a particularly cruel irony. The medications prescribed to protect kidney function, especially loop diuretics and proton pump inhibitors, significantly impair magnesium absorption or increase its loss through urine. This brings us to the practical question that matters. If you're concerned about kidney health, if you have early signs of declining function, if you want to prevent the damage before it becomes irreversible, what specific form of magnesium should you add to your coffee or water each morning? Because here's something that often gets glossed over in supplement discussions. Not all magnesium is created equal. The bioavailability varies dramatically depending on the molecular form. Magnesium oxide, commonly found in cheap multivitamins and generic supplements, has a bioavailability of only 4%. You can swallow 400 milligrams and absorb just 16 milligrams, while the rest passes through your digestive system, often causing diarrhea in the process. Magnesium citrate absorbs somewhat better, around 30%, but it's primarily used as a laxative because it draws water into the intestines. For kidney support specifically, the research increasingly points toward magnesium glycinate or magnesium threonate as optimal forms. Magnesium glycinate pairs magnesium with the amino acid glycine, creating a chelated compound that absorbs efficiently, around 80% bioavailability, and doesn't cause digestive distress. The glycine itself has protective effects on kidney tissue, helping to modulate inflammatory responses. The typical therapeutic dose for kidney protection ranges from 300 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium daily, divided into 2 doses. Adding it to morning coffee isn't just convenient, there's actually some synergy here. Coffee contains compounds that can slightly enhance magnesium absorption when consumed together, though coffee consumed in excess throughout the day can increase magnesium excretion. The key is moderation and timing. 1 dose with morning coffee, 1 with evening meal or before bed. The powder form dissolves easily and allows precise dosing, which matters because individual needs vary based on body weight, stress levels, current medications, and baseline kidney function. But we need to address something crucial here, something that applies to anyone with existing kidney disease or reduced kidney function. While magnesium supplementation is protective for healthy kidneys and those with early-stage decline, it becomes potentially dangerous once kidney function drops below 30% of normal. At that point, your kidneys can no longer efficiently excrete excess magnesium, and levels can build up to toxic concentrations, causing muscle weakness, cardiac arrhythmias, and even cardiac arrest. This is why the dosing conversation must happen with your nephrologist if you have diagnosed chronic kidney disease at stage 3 or higher. The therapeutic window exists, but it's narrow and requires monitoring. For those with healthy or mildly compromised kidney function, though, the protective effects extend beyond the kidneys themselves. Remember, kidney disease rarely exists in isolation. The same magnesium-dependent processes that protect your nephrons also protect your cardiovascular system. Magnesium supplementation has been shown to reduce arterial stiffness, lower blood pressure by an average of 5 to 10 points, systolic in hypertensive individuals, decrease insulin resistance, and reduce inflammatory markers throughout the body. You're not just protecting your kidneys, you're addressing the root causes that threaten multiple organ systems simultaneously. There's also fascinating research emerging about magnesium's role in preventing kidney stones, one of the most painful conditions affecting the urinary system and a significant risk factor for progressive kidney damage. Most kidney stones form from calcium oxalate crystals. Magnesium naturally binds to oxalate in the digestive tract, preventing its absorption and reducing the amount that reaches the urine where stones form. Multiple studies have demonstrated that people with higher magnesium intake, whether from diet or supplements, have substantially lower rates of kidney stone formation. For anyone who has experienced the excruciating pain of passing a stone, this preventive effect alone justifies attention to magnesium status. What's remarkable is how quickly the benefits can manifest once you correct deficiency. Within 2 weeks of beginning appropriate magnesium supplementation, many people notice measurable improvements. Blood pressure begins to normalize, muscle cramps that plagued nighttime sleep disappear, heart rhythm irregularities settle into normal patterns. The kidney protection itself happens more gradually, over months and years, as the daily assault of inflammation and vascular damage is systematically reduced. This isn't about a quick fix or a miracle cure. It's about consistently providing your body with a nutrient essential for normal function, a nutrient that modern life depletes faster than we can replenish it through diet alone. The mechanism behind magnesium's protective effect involves some elegant biochemistry. Inside each cell, including the specialized cells of your nephrons, magnesium serves as a cofactor for ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of life. Every cellular process that requires energy requires ATP, and ATP doesn't function without magnesium bound to it. The working unit isn't actually ATP, it's magnesium ATP complex. When cells run low on magnesium, they can't produce energy efficiently. They can't power the sodium-potassium pumps that maintain cellular electrical potential. They can't fuel the protein synthesis needed to repair damaged structures. They can't support the mitochondria that generate 90% of cellular energy. Cellular function declines. Waste products accumulate. Oxidative stress increases. Cell death follows. But provide adequate magnesium, and those processes reverse. Mitochondrial function improves. Cellular energy production increases. The antioxidant systems that normally protect against free radical damage become fully operational. The kidney cells, specifically the podocytes that form the filtering membrane in each glomerulus, can maintain their intricate foot processes that create the selective barrier between blood and urine. These podocytes are particularly vulnerable to damage and cannot be replaced once lost. Every podocyte that survives because of adequate magnesium status is a small victory in the battle against kidney decline. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Why don't more doctors emphasize this? Part of the answer lies in how medical education works. The overwhelming focus in medical school and residency training is on treating acute disease and managing chronic disease once diagnosed. Nutrition receives minimal attention, often just a few lectures across 4 years of medical school. Micronutrient deficiencies, unless they manifest as dramatic syndromes like scurvy or beriberi, rarely appear in clinical curricula. The pharmaceutical model dominates. Identify disease, prescribe medication, manage symptoms. A generic mineral supplement doesn't fit that model. There's no pharmaceutical representative bringing lunch to the clinic to discuss magnesium. There's no patent protection generating profit margins that fund research. The research that does exist gets published in nutrition journals that nephrologists rarely read. But that's changing slowly. As the burden of chronic kidney disease grows, currently affecting 15% of American adults, costing the healthcare system over $100 billion annually, researchers are desperately seeking interventions that can slow progression before patients reach end-stage renal disease. And nutrients like magnesium keep appearing in the data as protective factors that can't be ignored. The evidence has reached the point where some forward-thinking nephrologists are beginning to screen for magnesium deficiency and recommend supplementation as part of comprehensive kidney protection protocols. The broader context matters here too. Kidney disease doesn't develop in a vacuum. It emerges from the intersection of aging, diet, stress, medications, genetic predisposition, and environmental factors. Each person's kidney story is unique, shaped by decades of choices and circumstances, some controllable and many not. But within that complexity, magnesium stands out as one of the most actionable factors, something you can influence directly, something that produces measurable benefits across multiple systems, something that costs less than your daily coffee, but potentially adds years of functional life. This isn't about replacement for medical care. If your kidney function is declining, you need a nephrologist, you need appropriate blood pressure control, likely through medication, you need blood sugar management. If you have diabetes, you need monitoring. But alongside that medical management, optimizing your magnesium status might be the difference between stability and continued decline. It might be what allows your remaining nephrons to function well enough that dialysis remains something that happens to other people, not to you. The practical implementation is straightforward. Start with 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate powder each morning, mixed into 8 ounces of water or coffee. The powder dissolves clear and has minimal taste, a slight mineral note that's undetectable in coffee. Take it with breakfast to minimize any potential stomach sensitivity. After 2 weeks, if you tolerate it well, add a second dose of 200 milligrams with dinner. Most people reach optimal status at 400 to 600 milligrams daily from supplements combined with dietary sources. Monitor your response. Better sleep quality, reduced muscle cramps, improved energy, and gradual blood pressure normalization are all positive signs that your cells are finally getting the magnesium they've been lacking. And pay attention to diet simultaneously. While supplements fill the gap, food-based magnesium comes packaged with other beneficial compounds: fiber, antioxidants, vitamins. Incorporate dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard. Add pumpkin seeds or almonds as snacks. Choose dark chocolate with 70% cacao or higher. Include black beans, quinoa, or avocado in meals. These dietary sources provide not just magnesium, but the complete nutritional matrix that supports kidney health from multiple angles. One final consideration deserves attention: the relationship between magnesium and vitamin D, another nutrient critical for kidney health. These two work synergistically. Magnesium is required to convert vitamin D into its active form, and vitamin D improves magnesium absorption. Many people supplement vitamin D while ignoring magnesium status, wondering why their vitamin D levels remain stubbornly low despite supplementation. The answer often lies in magnesium deficiency. Addressing both simultaneously produces better outcomes than either in isolation. For kidney protection specifically, maintaining vitamin D levels between 50 and 80 nanograms per milliliter while ensuring adequate magnesium status helps regulate calcium metabolism, reduce inflammation, and support the kidney cells that activate vitamin D in the first place. The research continues to evolve. New studies emerge each year, revealing additional mechanisms by which magnesium protects kidney tissue, reducing oxidative stress markers, improving endothelial function, modulating the gut microbiome in ways that reduce uremic toxin production, preventing the epithelial to mesenchymal transition that turns healthy kidney cells into scar tissue. Each discovery reinforces the fundamental importance of this mineral that we've somehow managed to deplete from our modern environment. Think about the trajectory of kidney disease. It typically progresses silently for years, even decades. You feel fine. Blood tests show minor changes that doctors monitor but don't treat. Then one day, the numbers cross a threshold. You're diagnosed with stage 3, chronic kidney disease. By definition, that means you've already lost more than 40% of your kidney function, and it's not coming back. The focus shifts to preservation, to slowing further loss, to preparing for the possibility of dialysis. But what if that progression could have been interrupted years earlier? What if maintaining optimal magnesium status from age 40 onward meant reaching age 75 with 80% kidney function instead of 50%? That's the difference between independence and medical dependence, between life centered on health and life centered on healthcare appointments. The compound, sitting in your kitchen cabinet, dismissed as just another supplement, represents more than a mineral. It represents a choice. The choice to take kidney health seriously before symptoms appear, before function declines, before options narrow. It represents the understanding that prevention isn't passive, but requires active engagement with the biochemistry keeping you alive. And it represents hope grounded in science, not wishful thinking. Hope that the trajectory of kidney decline that seems inevitable as we age might actually be modifiable through something as simple as a scoop of powder dissolved in morning coffee. Your kidneys filter blood continuously, without rest, from before birth until death. They deserve more than neglect, punctuated by crisis management. They deserve the micronutrients essential for their function. They deserve magnesium. And you deserve the years of healthy life that protected kidneys provide. Years free from the restrictions and suffering that kidney failure imposes. The choice is yours to make. But know this: every morning without adequate magnesium is another morning. Those filtering membranes face oxidative stress they're not equipped to handle. Another morning, vascular walls stiffen just slightly more. Another morning, inflammatory molecules damage tissue that can never fully regenerate. And every morning with magnesium is a morning you're giving your kidneys what they need to do what they were designed to do, keeping you alive, filtering waste, maintaining balance, sustaining health. One approach accepts decline as inevitable. The other recognizes that the difference between healing and deterioration often comes down to what you dissolve in your coffee each morning.